Mr. Pierce, can I ask you if J.T. Reddy's your friend?
J.T. Reddy showed up at a rally with me and J.D. Hayworth in the New Times. The great fiction it is, went around and tried to find a picture they could use.
If you had to do it all over again, would you take another picture with the guy?
I didn't take it.
To take a picture with him?
It's an old story and it's fiction. They made it up, Mr. Ben. One of the things that I appreciate about J.T. is the fact that I think he's committed as a true patriot to the real purpose and the limited purpose of government, kind of like the Republican platform that we have.
The ordination, with particularly from him, that would be someone who's like your father or your actual father in the LDS church.
Thank you very much, all the volunteers. Enough is enough. And I got news for all the judicial branch, too, that are in their little fancy black dresses, that want to release these illegal aliens on our street. We'll yank them out of the collar, too, and say, you're done. We're going to put patriots back in office. You want to do some reform, then let's see the National Guard of Arizona on the Arizona national border. All the politicians want to act like this is and I say politicians because great people like Russell Pierce are statesmen.
And how does this fit in with your idea of local control? I mean, this is a state imposing its ideas on the local district. That's a contradiction, isn't it? You're from Phoenix and you're saying to Tucson, this is what you can and cannot teach. And if you do teach this, we're going to cut 10% of your budget. How's that even legal? How's that even right?
Engaged.
I was listening to your ad today, and it says that you're going to stand up against La Raza. What do you mean by standing up against La Raza?
Well, it is the concept, two concepts. One, that in a class that our founding fathers should ever be disparaged. There's two concepts beyond that. Our founding fathers brought all the freedoms that have enabled all the prosperity that's created the culture that we have in America.
Even Jefferson, who owned slaves?
Even Jefferson, who owned slaves.
How's that freedom?
Well, he was the writer of the Declaration of Independence.
He also owned slaves too.
There's no problem with that. But
you think that the CTE program, all these funded classes are very important, right?
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm. But in May of 2009, you voted yes on a bill that would cut $550 million from the Department of Education, and a lot of that was actually CTE, the money that would have been going to CTE. What factors led to this decision?
Well, tell me a little bit more about that vote. What committee did it take place in?
I actually have that right here. This was right here. Well, it says right here that this bill actually passed. So, and then through further research, we actually saw that it did pass again in the House of Representatives, which ended up cutting $550 million.
Well, I don't know the specific vote that you're talking about there. So,
was that whole what you look at there? Is that something?
But you're not giving any
examples.
Well, I'm proud of it. Are you guys proud of it?
Yes.
We're proud.
Well.
And this is our town. This is our district.
Well,
you're imposing your will on our district.
You know what? I was on that March on Washington in summer of 1963. Philosophy. Sure. In the summer of 1963, I had just graduated from high school, and I participated in the March on Washington, in which Martin Luther King gave his famous speech where he said people should be judged by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin. Has been one of my most fundamental beliefs. In which Martin Luther King said, and we all remember it since then, I dream of a day when my son will be judged by the content of his character and not the color of his skin. Yes, I am running for Attorney General. I've served 8 years as superintendent of schools, and that's all that's allowed.
So to your critics who say this is about politics, you're basically trying to appeal to potential voters out there.
I've been fighting for this law for 4 years, and this is among my most deeply held beliefs. I mentioned to you being on the March on Washington where Martin Luther King gave his speech. I believe very deeply that people are individuals. They are not exemplars of the race they were born into. and this race-obsessed philosophy that your other guest is expounding, and it's going on in Tucson, is wrong for the American public schools.
It's not race-obsessed. First of all, you repeated that same statement earlier, so it's a great line, but the reality is Martin Luther King Jr. said the whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundation of this nation until the Negro, and we can add others, are granted his full citizenship rights. He talked about the bitter legacy of white supremacy before he began to talk about that dream, and then he said that in America it's an ideal toward which we should strive, but in the meantime we should adjust to the reality that we have some negative realities that we should adjust to and that we should address. And I think that Martin Luther King Jr. cannot be used to justify xenophobic and racist passions that are dressed up as desires to reform the curriculum.